don't want you to take notes or anything, simply by being here with your clickers. And if you are here and forgot your clickers, because being here gives you 100 or 2 homeworks, come see me after class and I'll make sure that you get credit for it. That's only because you're getting homework credit for being here. You're not doing homework credit that way. So if you don't have your clicker, come see me after class and I'll make sure you get credit for it. So by being here, you're getting 100 on homework 12. Homework 10 and 11 is a substitute for Friday's class in lab. When we talked about the general theory of prices, there was a thing called price discrimination that we skipped over, but it's important because when you go out there in the world, there's really one price for everything. Everybody's trying to charge you different things. When you go to the movie theater and you get a student discount, they're not giving you a discount. They're charging non-students more because they have more money. It's important you understand that. If you'll go to it, you'll get the worksheet. No, I'm telling you, only answer questions 4 through 8 and 13. Very easy. You read a few paragraphs, answer some questions, watch excerpt from the Colbert Report. Very humorous that you will like very much. And, it says on here, I want you to print it out. Well, not print out, I want you to type your answers. Doesn't have to be essay questions. I'm not going to grade you on grammar. It doesn't have to be a page long. Just make it a largely complete answer. Type it nicely with your name. Bring it to class on March 29th. And that will be homework. And again, just by being here, with your clickers in a minute, so get that ready. You got 800 for homework 12, and it sucks to be people who didn't come today. Says that there's some grades for exam 2 have been posted. I can't vouch for the accuracy. I've only done a few checks of it. But I've still got like 5 people who haven't even taken a version of the exam yet. So, and of course, you went to Congress class Friday evening. Any questions about anything? Go ahead and get your clickers out. There's no right or wrong here. This is your opinion. What we're going to be talking about is a thing called paternalism, food paternalism, where some people, usually experts like me, are trying to control the food that you eat. And I want to kind of warm up by thinking about the extent to which you say you want to control the actions of other people. A few years ago, OSU became a smoke-free institution where you're not supposed to smoke on campus. I want you to tell me whether and this is just personal. Do you personally, if you could have a vote to people today, do you approve, disapprove, or are you indifferent? And
it's not open.
I saw what happened.
I think you're trying to trick us with that, right?
Is that the right answer?
Okay, I don't think the timer's working perfect, so there won't be a timer shown. So go ahead and do your responses. Okay, I'm going to show the answer. There's the timer now. Thank you very much. And everybody approves. I want you to remember that during our discussion today. Most of you want to control whether other people smoke or not. Let's go to another question. I'm sure all of you have seen about in New York, Mayor Bloomberg wants to make it impossible for you to go to a convenience store and say buy a soda greater than 16 ounces. You can buy 2 16-ounce drinks, but not an 18-ounce drink. Do you approve or disapprove of the proposal?
Not open.
I can't disapprove.
Okay, let's try it again.
Maybe I need to sit with him and work with these individually.
Oh. Okay, I'm closing it now. There's our timer. Okay, most of you disapprove of that.
Why?
Last one. You go into any New York City restaurant, coffee chains, they have to, I know, they have to tell you the calorie count of everything you buy. You're not controlling what you eat, they're just making the restaurant give you more information than they would like. You approve or disapprove of that.
All right, I approve. That's all it is, trying to change somebody's behavior to turn them into. That's all it is.
And most people approve of that. What I'm going to do right at the end of this is at the end of today's lecture, I'm going to put up the information. I'm going to take all the clicker IDs that found today, sort them, post it up in Excel. You can look at there, make sure your clicker was up there, and if you don't see it, come see me after class. Just sit back and listen to me for a minute. What we're talking today is about food and controlling the foods that other people eat. And this idea of controlling what other people do is called paternalism. You don't need to read anything. I've got pictures and videos I'm going to show up. I want to kind of give you a better context to think about paternalism in America, because I think we're largely taught a kind of romanticized view of the history of American freedom. Usually when we think about America, the American Revolution, democracy, we think of our bold yearning to be free, tyranny, and willing to fight anybody who tries to control us. And in some ways, that's right. You know, America does have that romantic, accurate history of wanting to be free of British control, mainly because we were scared of being taxed out of existence like Ireland was. But it wasn't about freedom. And when it comes to personal freedom, there was actually less freedom after the Revolution than before. I'm talking about personal freedom like you have today. I want to read you a few sections from one of the most interesting books, and I believe 100% accurate. It's called A Renegade's History of the United States. And it talks about what America was like under British control right before the Revolution, and how the America's founders, they did want to break us free from British, but they also want to break us free because they thought most Americans were acting immorally. And democracy would force us to be more moral. On nearly every block in 18th century American city, remember 18th century is the 1700s, forgive me if I just insult you, there was a public place where one could drink, sing, dance, have sex, argue politics, gamble, play games, and generally carouse with men, women, children, whites, blacks, Indians, the rich, the poor, and the middle. The Founding Fathers were keenly, painfully aware of this. A little later. In the early American economy, workers, not bosses, decided when they would show up and when they would go home. Long afternoon periods of eating, drinking, and sleeping were taken for granted. On the 18th century worker schedule, Sunday was followed by another day of rest known as Saint Monday, which Benjamin Franklin was irritated to see is as duly kept by our working people as Sunday. The only difference is that instead of employing their time chiefly in church, they are wasting it expensively in the alehouse. A little more. Lower class taverns were the first racially integrated public squares in America. Early court records tell of drinking establishments across the colonies that disregarded the color line. The Founding Fathers knew better than our textbooks. They knew that the drunks swinging clubs and slinging horseshit at the authorities that night were a problem as much for them as for the British Empire. Adams, John Adams, like the Founding Fathers, was generally interested in perfecting and maintaining the social order. He felt we were immoral, and our morals needed to be perfected. During what we call the American Revolution, a second American Revolution took place, a counter-revolution against the pleasure culture of the cities. Personal freedom and sensual pleasure came under attack during the Democratic Revolution, not because the revolutionaries were Puritans, but because democracy is puritanical. We normally think of democracy as a system of rights and freedoms, voting, speaking freely, equal treatment of the law, and so forth. But true democracy, the kind of democracy that the Founding Fathers wanted, is much more than that. John Locke, the man who in the English world helped invent the notion that the people should rule and who inspired all of American democratic revolutionaries, made this brutally clear. It seems plain to me, John Locke wrote in Some Thoughts Concerning Education, 1693, that the principle of all virtue and excellency lies in a power of denying ourselves the satisfaction of our own desire, where reason does not authorize them. This is the last sentence already. Locke knew that managing society is a big job requiring enormous discipline. If the people were to do it, as in a democracy, then the people would have to renounce their personal freedoms. So one of the first things that came with the American Revolution was a severe tightening of moral laws and the enforcement of moral laws to make us more ethical, more virtue, like the founders wanted. And of course, and it really was before then, a white person could drink and do anything they wanted with a black person, and it would be okay. Now, of course, then you had the 19th century that came along, Jim Crow laws, things like that, and America got really, really racist once again. And one reason bringing this out, people today, I think, tend to believe America's losing a lot of freedoms. We have this notion that with a larger federal government, and it is true the federal government is getting larger and more powerful, and with the smaller power of the states, and it is true the states are losing power relative to the federal government, we are losing many of our freedoms. And certainly you can point to some ways to say that we aren't as free as we used to be. But I believe if you really look at history overall, we're probably more free than any people has ever been at any time. And just to get an idea, it wasn't that long ago when you could not date a person of the other race against the law. You certainly couldn't marry. Forbidden. Now, you can. And in fact, when we think of a more powerful federal government, if I was a black American, when I would think of a larger federal government and less rights of the states, the first thing I would think of was more freedom, because it was that powerful federal government that came into the southern states like my own and forced them to treat blacks well, to give blacks freedom, to let them vote. And of course, you have a declining power of the church. And most people, even Christians today, probably do not want Christianity to tell other people what they should do too much. Not long ago, the church was very powerful, probably, when it comes to actual controlling what people do, more powerful than, say, our federal government today. 50 years ago, if I had applied to the Ag Econ department, and if I was not a Christian, I probably would not have been hired. They probably would have asked me if I was. Today, when you interview for a job anywhere at a university, you're not asked about your religion. And if you are, you can sue them. So, we are very free. Now, we're going to be talking about control today. And I just want to put us in the right context to make sure we understand just how free we are. And we're going to concentrate on food today. And we've got this topic of paternalism. Paternalism meaning me acting like a parent to you. I'm what you call an expert. I'm a doctor. I am a doctor, I didn't mean expert. But when people form policy, if they want to say, make you eat healthier, they would probably come to people like me to say, what kind of policies can we craft so you don't get big and fat and die of diabetes by the time you're 45. I would be the one in charge. So what we want to think about is, to what extent do you want people like Baby Norwood in control, or ostensibly in control, of policy? Paternalism. We're going to talk about three kinds. Regular paternalism, or three views of paternalism. Regular paternalism, libertarian paternalism, and libertarianism. This man is the quintessential food paternalist, Robert Lustig. He believes that we need to take control of sugar consumption in the country exactly like we did tobacco use. I'm not exaggerating. He believes that virtually all obesity today is caused by sugar, and the way sugar is in everything we eat. When you have kids, just try not to get something without sugar. It's almost impossible. And he believes that you don't have the power to control yourself very much. He describes sugar as an addictive substance, like that. And he believes that you want to be set free of sugar if you are informed. He believes, one, you're not informed, you don't really understand this now. And if you did understand it, you just don't, as you are, you just don't have the power to do anything about it, or at least most of you. And that you need his help. Let me give you a few quotes from him. He says, when he's talking about weaning you off sugar, getting you to consume less sugar, he says, education has not worked. Labeling has not worked. And they're not going to work. To fix America's obesity problems, we need a regulatory framework for selling and serving less sugar-laden food. If we keep thinking about obesity in terms of personal responsibility, we're not going to work our way out of it. And then the reporter says, Lustig's dream is that sugar policy and litigation will follow the path of tobacco, where government can say how much sugar goes in certain products, can regulate it, and imposes very high taxes on it. Some of you, now, I'm not here to say whether that's good or bad, but that is paternalism. You have an expert who gets a lot of influence. One of his disciples is Alec Baldwin. If you hear Alec Baldwin talk about obesity, Alec Baldwin's going to mention his name. And he's getting a lot of influence. And he's going to the courts, and he is starting to have some success. Paternalism is about you being someone who's too busy with your own life to worry about things like this. So you hand everything over to him and people and the politicians who he influences. And they gather the information, they figure out what is best for you, and they adjust policies to get the behavior that they want. But it's not really done in a mean sense, however mean it sounds. They really think that you need his help. Just like, most of you probably agree about tobacco, about how we regulate tobacco. You might say that smokers really did need the help of society and government, and that what we have now is good as far as tobacco. He wants to do the same thing for sugar. That's paternalism. Control. Someone being like a parent to you. Now most of you approved of a smoke-free campus. That's, sugar's not the same thing. Unless you believe sugar's addictive and hard to avoid, then maybe you would support him like you would a smoke-free campus at OSU. Now, most people would not come out and call themselves. He's one of the few people who is actually very honest about what he wants. He would call himself a paternalist. Most people don't want to make it sound like they actually want to control you. And so the big thing now, when it comes to food and obesity, is something called libertarian paternalism. And those sound like oxymorons. Paternalism is me controlling what you eat. Libertarianism is you having freedom. Well, the idea is this. You take people like me who do little experiments, and then what I try to do is I say, okay, you still have choice. You're the person in charge. You choose what you eat. But I'm just going to frame the choices in a way that's going to help you. And by help you, I mean get you to do the things that I think that you really want to do. Meaning, if you think you should eat healthy, raise your hand if you think you should eat more fruits and vegetables than you do right now. Yeah, most everybody thinks. So you've got this sense that, these other food, I just don't want to eat those fruit and vegetables very much. Like my little daughter, she will not eat vegetables unless we have the reward of a treat at the end of dinner. I mean, it's the only way she'll do it. And she would only drink milk as a child if it was chocolate milk. There's this immediate award of unhealthy food, but at the same time, you're thinking about yourself in the future, and you wish you made better choices now so you would have better health in the future. It's kind of like you struggling in the present against the future you. Maybe you need the help of a libertarian paternalist. And this is what we would do. We want to frame choices. Meaning when you go to a buffet line, you still have the same foods to choose between as you did before. We're not banning anything. But what we do is we go in and someone like me is in charge of where all the food is placed. Meaning I may, instead of putting the desserts right with the other foods, I may put it at the other side of the room. Just slightly inconvenient. Mayor Bloomberg's ban is really libertarian paternalism. He's not banning soda. He's not even limiting the amount of soda you drink. He just wants to make it slightly inconvenient, more inconvenient for you to get a big soda. That's all. You'll see in a video that was Sweden, is one of the Scandinavian countries put a tax on fatty food. They call it a fat tax. The idea is you should get to eat fatty foods if you want. We're just going to tax it, make it a little more expensive for you, just to help you. And also framing things differently, just the way we describe things in words. This whole thing of libertarian paternalism framing choices for you, it really got popular with this book called Nudge, written by one's an economist, the other one's a political scientist, I think. Well, what they say in here, this isn't about food, but it's about breast cancer screenings. People are more likely to engage in self-examinations for skin and breast cancer if they are told not about the reduced risk if they do, but about the increased risk if they fail to do so. So just changing the words. If you do this, well, your risk goes down by this much. Not many people sign up. And these experiments have shown a profound effect. If you would instead say, if you do not do this, the risk of breast and skin cancer goes up by 20%. Lots of people sign up. Just the words you use can change a lot. And the whole idea of libertarian paternalism is to go in there, just make small little adjustments to help you while giving you the dignity of your own choice. It sounds good, but it's still control. It just has the appearance of freedom. It's still about control. Again, I'm not saying whether. There's been a whole new branch of economics has developed to fulfill this need. In the United Kingdom, they created a new agency. It's called the Behavioral Intelligence Unit, but its nickname is the Nudge Captain because it was inspired by this book. This whole agency is devoted to figuring out little psychological tricks they can do to help you lead a better life, to help you eat better, among many things. And so far what we've talked about is control, whether direct or indirect. And there's an industry behind this for a lot of reasons. People like me are always going to want to control you because that gives me power and it gets me attention. If I can say that sugar is causing obesity and food companies are causing us higher health care costs because they're putting sugar in everything, I can go on TV. I can be interviewed by Alec Baldwin. I can get a lot of attention, and all people like me to hear about is attention. We do like money, and we do like power, but we like attention. After all, I don't come to an empty classroom with people. I only come here with the students. And so people like me are generally going to want all the control we can get. And we always want to tell you the ways we can help you. You need me. That's what we'll say. There are a few people who are not like that. And one thing I like about economics is you have people of all different political flavors. You're going to have lots of economists who are big into paternalism, whether the outright paternalism or libertarian paternalism. But there are a few economists who would call themselves just libertarian, meaning they don't want to have any say over what you buy. That's your business. Nor do they want to go into a business and tell that business what price it should charge. It does not want to tell the business the largest soda they can sell. The libertarian does not want to go into a buffet and say, no, you can't have the desserts right here by the salad. They say that's between you and the business. And that's just plain libertarianism. Don't want to restrict your choice. They're still about information. They want to find information that you may find helpful, but they think it's your choice how to use that information. The Department of Ag Econ is home to the world's most widely known libertarian in terms of food. Now, he's becoming something of a celebrity. He's probably going to have a best-selling book pretty soon. So I want to use the rest of this class to introduce him each one. His name is Jason Lusk. He's one of my best friends in the world, been friends a long time. And he's right down the hall from me. If you look at most of what I publish, it usually has his name on it. And he's got a book coming out pretty soon called The Food Police. And what's rare about this book is it's the only book that goes out there and tries to say, no, paternalism is bad for a number of reasons. One, the experts like me don't really know what we're doing. We publish this stuff and we have lots of numbers and statistics behind what we do, but we don't know near as much as we think. I'll give you a brief example. 15 years ago, there were some behavioral economists who wanted to use this libertarian paternalism to get you to invest in stocks more. They said when people save for retirement, they tend to go for really safe things that earn a low rate of return, whereas the stock market gives good returns year after year after year. If those people have been able to force you or trick you into buying more stocks when 2008 hit, you might have lost it. We don't know near as much as we think. Another reason is some people, the value of freedom of choice is kind of, some people don't think it's that valuable because it's a democratic society. We do control each other. It's what a society does. Other people believe that freedom is a right, it's a human right, and so they resent one person trying to control another one. And another thing you may pick up here, another reason he is against food paternalism is because suppose all of you decide that I would be a great expert to help you with your life, to help design policies. And you tell politicians you need to listen to Bailey Norwood and buy his books. He'll craft good policy. The politicians will do that, and they'll invite me to their meetings, and they'll praise me and give me lots of attention. But when it comes to actually writing policy, I will not be in the room. My usefulness will have been gone. When it comes to writing policy, it's the politicians and the lobbyists. The lobbyists will capture for themselves all the goodwill, all the good things that I could have done. So those are the things you're going to hear. Now, we're going to watch, Jason just on Sunday night was on the Stossel show on the Fox, it's on the Fox Business News. I'm going to show you the few minutes from that episode. Stossel is a libertarian. Everything Fox News and Fox Business is conservative. It is political news. So I'm not trying to bring this to you as like information that you should believe this. This is just going to give you one angle. But, if we've got someone from our department who's actually on TV and people are actually listening to, and this thing will probably be a bestseller in 2 months, then I think he's worth listening to.
Tonight, we expose myths, lies, and complete stupidity.
You're a bully.
Politicians now tell us what food we can eat.
What business is it of yours what I put in my own body?
That's a really good donut.
Without a little fat and sugar, what would life be?
And now, from the Fox News headquarters in New York, John Stossel.
We start with myth number 7. Because Americans are so fat, it's government's job to help us eat better.
Changing old habits is never easy.
No, it's not. So the First Lady says to change behavior,
It's going to take government doing its part.
if Michelle Obama wants to inspire us by exercising on the White House lawn, that's great. But government doing its part usually means force.
This has nothing to do with banning your ability to buy as many sugary drinks as you want, simply the size of the cup that can be used.
In my hometown, the mayor went to war against big cups of soda. He made cups this size illegal.
This is the single biggest step any city, I think, has ever taken to curb obesity.
Please, I can still buy 2 of these. That's 32 ounces. Or I can go to a supermarket, buy one of these monsters. How does this curb obesity?
Real, thank you.
My mayor's also proud that he's forced every chain restaurant to clearly post calorie count. There they are.
There were more than a few skeptics, but today both reforms are recognized as national models.
Sadly, that's true. Under Obamacare, all big chains will now have to post calorie counts, even though they don't work. A study by professors at New York University and Yale tracked customers at McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, and Kentucky Fried Chicken. They found half the customers noticed the calorie counts, and some said it influenced their ordering. But when researchers checked receipts, they found people ordered more calories. The author of The Food Police, Jason Lusk, studied that too.
What we find is those labels really don't change behavior at all. So what you're doing is asking companies to undertake a cost that has essentially no benefit to the consumer. It's a sign of a government that's willing to step into your daily food choices, even though they know it won't work, for the sole reason of creating a symbol. I mean, what kind of government is that?
An intrusive one. In my state, the legislator most eager to ban foods and require that those signs be posted is Felix Ortiz.
It didn't work. They've tested it. In fact, they ate more.
Well, I'm disagree with that.
Now he's going after salt.
The ban of salt in the restaurants in the state of New York.
Too much salt is bad for some people. People with hypertension or some other problem. But there's no evidence that it's harmful to most of us. In fact,
Some studies show that reduced salt intake among some segments of the population actually increased the chances of death.
So because you shouldn't have salt, I can't have salt?
It's based on the statistics that is coming from
For
CDC.
some people, maybe 20% of the people, but not everybody.
Hold the cheeseburgers. Across the pond in Europe, Denmark is becoming the first country in the world to impose a fat tax.
some members of the food police say consumers should pay more to buy less healthy food. The chattering class loved what Denmark did.
Denmark has decided to implement what they're calling a fat tax. Basically, you go to the supermarket, you buy a food that has above a certain level of fat, they charge you extra. All right, do we feel good about this, Doc?
Absolutely.
The fat tax passed the Danish parliament overwhelmingly. But Danes just switched to cheaper food that was just as unhealthy, or crossed the border to shop in neighboring countries. Within 1 year, Denmark repealed its fat tax. So far, its American boosters haven't mentioned that, so I would.
They repealed it.
As they repeal it, I think they're making a big mistake on repealing.
Well, they tried it for a year. They tried your dumb idea for a year. Bad idea.
I believe it's a great idea.
Other great ideas for the food police are taxes on candy or fast food.
How do you define fast food? You can go to McDonald's, you can order a salad, or you can order a Big Mac. Both of those are fast food. You can bet that the lobbyists are going to be on the table when we make those rules as to what a fast food is.
Illinois has had a similar problem with its candy tax. What exactly is candy? The bureaucrats decided this Hershey bar is taxable candy, but this Hershey bar isn't because it contains flour. Store clerks don't know what to charge.
In our donuts, we have flour, sugar, eggs, salt.
Katie Rosenhaus's dessert won an award from the Food Network.
Don't you think you're poisoning people?
No,
You're making everybody fat.
no. Without a little fat and sugar, what would life be?
We asked her to make donuts without the so-called bad stuff.
The healthy version I made today has no sugar, no salt, very little fat. It's not fried, it's baked, showing you how different dessert can be without all the good stuff.
The good stuff. Well,
Yeah.
egg whites, that's good.
Egg whites are good, but it's not like egg yolks.
Will people mind the difference? Let's try a taste test. We got a healthy donut and a regular donut.
Almost everyone liked the regular donut.
That's awesome.
And how about the other one?
Not it.
So good?
Doesn't really taste like anything.
And in the sugar.
I wanted to like the healthy donut.
It's like eating bread.
Not what I'm looking for in a donut.
Some people did like the healthier version.
That's baked.
It's good. For a baked donut, it's very good.
Taste is subjective, so it's good that people have choices.
And we're trying to give you alternative, an option where you can make better choices.
Where do you get off saying you're giving us more choice? You're banning things. You're giving us less choice.
Well, let me just say, you're absolutely right. I'm trying to ban those stuff that is not good for the consumer.
You're a bully.
Well, I've been calling worse.
What business is it of yours what I put in my own body? Isn't that part of freedom?
You can have the freedom, but when it comes down to the healthcare costs, then we need to tackle them. And if we are not into healthy lifestyle, government will be blamed for not doing the right thing.
So because government is responsible, because we have a socialized healthcare system, you get to take away my freedom?
I think what I'm trying to do is to help you to have a better life.
You're like a cancer. You're spreading a bad thing. It costs a lot of money. It doesn't do any good.
And I am a good counselor who provides good, healthy advice for the best public health of our country.
A good cancer. That brings us to myth number 6, Obamacare.
You remember there was one point where even Jason Lusk was saying that calorie counts on menus don't change people's behavior? You might have been partially responsible for that. He did research here on OSU. There's several places you can go on campus. Like, is it the ranch house with the ranch house? They did an experiment there where when they seated you at the table and they gave you the menus were one of two things, randomly determined. The roll of the dice determined what menu you got. One menu didn't have any calorie information on it. One menu did. And they randomly changed who got what menu, and they recorded what people ate, how many calories they consumed, things like that. And what they found was that the calorie count had basically no effect on how much people ate. However, there was a third menu. This menu, instead of having the calorie count, it had red lights and green lights. What I'm trying to do is give you an idea of many different things that come with it. A red light beside a menu item meant very high calorie. So bad, like a red light, like stop. Green light means low calorie. That did have an impact. With the red light, green light system, people did consume less calories. And so that would cause people to consume less calories without changing the choices on the menu. Whether people would still consume more overall calories, they might go home and just eat more. We don't know, but that's the kind of research that they did. I know that whole video there was very political stuff. I hope you think what I'm bringing here is plain economics, not necessarily politics. That's all for now. I'll go up there and try to put the quick ideas out.